It's time for Where You Live with Gene and Tony, the show that's all about owning, buying, selling, renting, and association management. If it involves a home, we'll talk about it. Here's your chance to get your homeowner questions answered. From the Concierge Landscape Studios, here's Gene and Tony.
Needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were. Needed someone to understand my ups.
Good morning. Welcome to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. I'm Gene Sullivan.
And I'm Tony Crockett. How are you today, Gene?
I'm great.
It's a beautiful day.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, it's been a great week. We had some snow, but the sun's out there melting it away, and
that's right.
That's all right with me.
It feels more like a March snow, doesn't it? That you know isn't going to last very long than it does a typical February snow.
I keep thinking we're going to be hit with a huge cold snap for a while, but I think we're probably over that. Huh?
Well, and even if we do, and we have had 16 inches of snow in March before, we know it can't last very long, right?
That's true.
So it's livable.
It just feels that way.
It just feels
That's
that
right.
way.
Hey, well, we're so glad to have you with us. We're broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios. We're brought to you this hour by Extreme Exteriors. And today on Where You Live, we've got a lot of great stories that we're following. We've talked about this before. There was a law that has been called Cooper's Law, and it's being looked at by the Kentucky legislature. And we're going to be talking about what's going on with that particular bill. In Florida, there is an article here about homeowner associations crippled by a housing crisis. I don't know if it's just indicative of Florida. I think a lot of HOAs have felt some pains as the real estate market's dropped. It's been difficult to sell homes, and people are trying to legislate. I guess their life to just get rid of all of the things that are bad. You know,
we're going to legislate everything so nothing bad ever happens to me.
Yes,
and I live in a van down by the river.
I think a lot of people are afraid that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, they'll end up living in a van down by the river.
That's right.
Yeah,
we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be dealing with a particular association in Michigan too, where people are concerned and all up in arms because they say the association is just out of. They are just. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess they're not in dealing in reality here because they're wanting to spend money on things that they think are just not priorities.
Gotcha.
And
they're
know what?
Not in touch with reality.
Not
is that
in
what
touch.
You're trying to say? Yeah.
And that is really not what is going on here. I think we're talking about some people that aren't understanding the dynamics of their association. We're going to go over that because we want you, if you're living in an HOA, to be more informed, too, about what is being done in your association.
Sure.
There are limitations.
Sure. There's processes being followed. There's reasons HOAs act as they do. And the better you understand that, the better you will understand your living situation.
That's
I guess.
right.
Yeah.
Well, let's begin with our first story here in property management in the news. Property management in the news is brought to you by Pest Control Services. When you need to get rid of unwanted pests in your home or rental property, who do you call? Well, you want to call someone who's responsive, professional, and a proud member of Angie's List. That would be Greg Keener. So give Pest Control Services a call at 952-894-9748, Pest Control Services. And our first story here is to bring up something we talked about, I think, about a month or so ago here on the show, sort of an update on what's called Cooper's Law being heard in the State House again in Kentucky. For our listeners who may not remember, there is a legislative bill that's called Cooper's Law. And the reason for that is there's a boy in Lexington, Kentucky. His folks live in a homeowners association. He has cerebral palsy. And so the parents are fighting to keep a playhouse that they had built in the back of the home at the association where they live. And if you recall in that story, Tony, I think it was the people here who are the parents of Cooper did not consult with the association.
No, that's right.
Prior to putting the playhouse up.
They installed the playhouse. The association informed them that they did not follow procedure. They didn't get prior approval from the association, which is required by their documents or their rules and regs, and that they had to take it down or face fines.
Yes.
They got very upset. They went off on an argument that they needed this playhouse, their son needed this playhouse for his therapy, and that the association could not force them to remove it.
Yes.
So now there's legislation pending and being considered that would allow people in this situation to apparently put whatever they wanted in their backyard.
And you know, in dealing with this story, this is not unlike what we've been dealing with here in Minnesota with the state legislature, too.
That's right.
When we talk about, was it Senate File 926 or House Bill 1254, you have someone else who's upset with the association and their rules, even though I think in all instances here, Cooper's parents were aware of what they agreed to when they
purchased their home.
When they purchased the home.
That's right. This whole issue went so off target. The target is not, or the issue is not that some mean old homeowners association will not treat fairly a disabled person. That's kind of what the emotional now argument is about. You're mistreating us. You're mistreating our son. Probably calling in fair housing issues because he's disabled, when that's not really the issue. I think these parents and their supporters are using emotion to bully their neighbors, is what it gets down to.
And that's that's I think very, very true. I think he hit the nail on the head. Today we have, with a lot of legislation, we have people that deal with feelings. You know, that people are dealing with how this makes them feel. And in this particular case, I think it's a little bit disingenuous in naming the bill the way they did, because it is trying to, I think, elicit a higher degree of emotions.
That's right.
Just in order to get this passed.
I think it's very deliberate, and that's why I call it bullying. This isn't even the point.
Emotional bullying.
They're using their emotions to bully people. The issue is not even about whether fair housing is being upheld here. The issue is not whether this boy needs this playhouse. The issue is not the association being cruel or not understanding the situation. The issue is these parents did not follow the process they agreed to follow when they purchased their home. They didn't notify the association that they wanted to do this. They didn't ask for prior approval. Had they, the association might have said, sure, we're going to give you some parameters. We're going to give you some limits. It can only be such and such a size, or it has to be made out of such and such materials. Maybe they would have approved it. Maybe they would have disapproved it. And then the family could have taken the next step in arguing that.
But
issue.
I think that's the point exactly, and that is they didn't go through the prescribed channels and the things that were open to them as a homeowner living in this community.
That's right.
They wanted to supersede all of that. They wanted to be able to jump past all of that so that they could do what they want to do, how they want to do it.
That's right. And I think it is completely wrong. I think it is wicked to operate that way. Some of the comments that are quoted in this article, I say let them keep the playhouse. It's not hurting anyone. Someone else says, it makes my blood boil. Until people have walked in these parents' shoes, they have no idea how cruel people can be. But then someone is quoted as saying, this seems weird to me. I have a couple of questions. Is the HOA legally obligated to uphold the bylaws of the neighborhood? Yes, they are. Did this family sign a contract? regarding deed restrictions when they moved into the neighborhood? Yes, they did. So someone asked some very point-on questions and
Yes.
didn't just take the emotional route.
Yes, and it's unfortunate here because you are not able to have a. It seems like you're just not able to have a very civil discourse with a disagreement. You know, living in a community, whether it's a homeowners association, a city, whatever. We deal with politics is dealing with people, and nobody's going to ever get their way 100% of the time.
Nor should they.
Exactly. One of the things that I think makes us better people is the fact that we go through things and we work towards building a consensus. You work to building something where both parties say, you know what, I can live with that. But that's not the case here. It's almost as if people are going with the premise that can't take place, that there's no way of building a consensus. There's no way of trying to see if you can work a solution that would be agreeable to everybody. Someone just moves ahead because the idea is, I'm going to, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
I guess. I see these people as extremely self-centered and selfish. I don't think in any way did they want to follow a process or reach a consensus or even try and find a win-win solution. They wanted their way, and they bullied their way into it, and now they're trying to bring the legislature in to help them push forward their emotional agenda.
Yeah. Well, let's deal with this a little bit more. We need to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Cooper's Law. What do you think? Are we off or are we right on our thinking here about this particular piece of legislation? We'll take a break and we'll be back after these messages.